Hello, one and all. My name's Ava Murray, and I go to school. It's kind of obvious at this point. But a question for the room, first of all. Raise your hand if you've ever been to school. Well, congrats. To everyone who raised their hands, and the ones who didn't, who I see are wearing a school uniform, some congrats are in order. Because to the rest of the world, you are considered prepared for anything that life will throw at you. Well, that raises another question, doesn't it? How many of you feel prepared? Because I'm going to be honest here, I don't. No, don't get me wrong. I am thrilled by the fact that I can go to school. We live in a world where over 1 billion people aren't able to read or to write, where I, as a female, couldn't even enter a learning institution. So, lucky? Yes. But school, as we know it today, also has downfalls. So I thought today I would kind of do an oral presentation, but I do it in the structure of a school essay, so that they accept it and make it more formal. Right. So start off the essay. What is the purpose of school? Well, school is to prepare us for life. We learn so many amazing things. We learn how to write formal letters. We keep our native language alive. The science behind our world, it's fascinating stuff. Well, fascinating from an overall point of view. Fascinating until you get to the workbooks, and the weekly test, and the junior cert, and the leaving cert. It's starting to get more tricky, isn't it? It's squashed into these bite-sized chunks which test our ability to survive the modern world and test our intelligence. But why do we learn such specific information? Well, the whole point of learning all this stuff is because we learn skills, amazing skills. We learn time management, organization, memorization, great stuff. We need them to survive our world. But the way that we learn it is we do all our school stuff, and we gain these skills through learning. But that raises a question. Why? Well, I asked some educators from different schools, and they said, it's not what you learn that's important. It's what you learn from it that is key. But then, why are we learning so much of it? You'd think after, 2 or 3 years, that information would have drummed into our skulls by now. We've been getting it the exact same way. 5 to 6 years seems a bit like overkill. And not to mention the fact, when do we get to practice these skills? In college. When we have about 1 million other things to worry about. If there's no connection between school and the outside world, what's the point of doing 13 subjects, getting tested in 11 of them, 2 of which have 2 exams, and that's only the first state exam that you do? When do we get to use these real-life applications? Okay, let's take the 3 core subjects, English, maths, and Irish / your foreign language, okay? Maths, okay. I have never gone into a shop and, picked up a bag of sweets in one hand and then another bag of sweets in the other, walked up to the till and said, hold on, this is over my budget, can't really go back now. You know what, give me a sec. This is over my budget, I'm just going to do some simultaneous equations just to figure it out. Hold on a second. 5 minutes later, the line is about yay long, and you forgot to cross the 2y, so you've got to start all over again. Right. Irish and your foreign languages. I'm not going to touch that one, to be honest. It's already been on stage, and I don't think I could do it justice. Okay. English. Okay. English is good to a degree because, I'm kind of speaking it right now. You wouldn't be able to understand me if I didn't. Again, could do the Irish thing, wouldn't do it justice. And, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for English. And English is great. You get to learn drama and improve your confidence. You get to do reading, and reading is brilliant. It's been proven to improve so much your brain mentally. But trust me, if you're trying to get students into reading, you will never get a student into reading by making them study a chosen work. Studying it with a fine toothpick, and then making them write 2 to 3 page long essay questions. Never, okay? And not to mention the fact, Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare, it's amazing. But, the main real use I can find for Shakespeare in modern terms is to introduce it into conversations to make yourself sound more intelligent. You laugh now, but trust me, I've tried it, and it works. Right? And in school gives us options. It's brilliant like that. It gives us a chance to explore possible job prospects and future passions, and that's great. But it packs us down to the barest essentials, taking out any real-world applications and any kind of curiosity about learning it. Okay, take a junior infant classroom, for example, right? Room full of 4 to 5-year-old minds that are bubbling with curiosity about the world they live in. They ask profound, interesting questions like, where do we go when we die? Or why do we breathe? Or why are deserts hot? All difficult questions to ask when you're on the other side of it, but they're profound questions, and they listen to the answers. And that's brilliant, but ask a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old. Guaranteed, the only question they're going to ask you is, will this be on the test? Any teachers in this room will loathe that question, because guess what? We're studying it because it's all on the test, apparently. What happened? That's the thing that's kind of pondering over my head right about now, but what happened to those 2 rooms? Where did all that curiosity go? Well, there's 2 main reasons that it left. One is because we haven't been encouraged to look for our own answers. And 2, we haven't been, the classrooms are quite different, because in a junior classroom, you're encouraged, it's interactive, you're in the classroom, you're always learning. But secondary school, it's always just sit down, kind of read out the book. There you go, study it for the night. And something needs to change in that regard. Actually, here's something interesting I learned. If you take history, you learn during the Industrial Revolution, that's when schools we first know them today were created. But they were used for an entirely different purpose than what is needed today. For one, kids worked in factories. Bit different. People may disagree with the fact that they're quite different today, but I'll take your word for it. They were used in factories to try and program kids to work more efficiently. It went from everything to how the classroom looked to how the class ran. And you can see it in every modern classroom today. For example, you walk into the room, straight row of desks. Do you know why they're like that? It's because they were made to resemble assembly lines in factories. It's the same reason why classrooms are run by teachers. They're there to teach, of course, but they're also there to keep order. They're also made to discipline and to teach obedience. That's what supervisors did in factories. It's the same reason why our lives are dictated by bells, because in factories, they didn't have clocks. The workers couldn't read it, and the workers used to work overtime because the owners used to ring the bell way later. It's the same reason why we can't go to the bathroom or eat lunch unless it's specific breaks, because if we did it in the factory, the owner would lose profit. And what the scariest part of all of this is that this mentality passed onto what and how these children were taught. The way they did it was, because there's only 2 real skills you need to have when you work in a factory: repetition, memorization. Those are the only ones you needed. Free thinkers weren't really valued because they thought they could topple the system. And that would be bad for the owner because, money. Money is kind of the root of all things in factories. But the way they did this is they did loads of different subjects, and they came up with a core topic in each one. And they would add bits of information to this topic over and over and over again to get them to repeat it and then memorize it. And then they would vomit that out in the test, and that would improve their ability to work in factories. Sounds nothing like school today, right? And the thing about this was this mentality was not even fine 150 years ago by our standards. It sounds horrible. And what's worse, we're in a modern world now. AI and robotics, big things that are coming very, very prominent in our society today. It's estimated that in 10 years, all tasks which involve repetition and memorization done by human hands will be replaced by robotics, who will do it 100 times, 1,000 times faster than we ever could. And they don't need to be paid. Another big thing for work. Employers now have different values. They value people who can think outside the box, people who think creatively, innovatively, and critically. Something needs to change. And the next question is, well, what do we do? You give them the problems, where's the solutions? Well, that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? People have already done it. There are people all across the world who have come up with different activities and ideas, and they use them. There's one man I studied who who did this sort of thing. I kind of did him as a case study, and his name's Ted Dintersmith. He actually did a talk like this. And what he did, he's an educator, and he traveled across the world looking for different ways to teach students. And he found them. In little pockets all across the globe, he found teachers who taught their students differently than what the syllabus dictated. And the students were way better off. Instead of having longer school days, they had shorter school days and they got more time to work on their hobbies and interests and expand their knowledge at home. They had no homework because they realized homework is useless. Unless you're teaching what school is meant to do within those finite hours, there's no point in doing it at home. And Ted Dintersmith, he compiled all these little ideas onto a website called the Innovation Playlist. Anyone can look at it, and it's free. It's filled with activities any teacher can implement into any class they want, from 5 minutes to an hour, from one class a week to all of them. And the schools that have used them have seen amazing progress with their students, physically, mentally, and academically. So, well, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this everywhere? If it's the problem is solved, why aren't we doing it? Well, that's another easy answer. We're scared. It's kind of the most bland statement I can make, but it's true. We've been following the same routine, the same hymn sheet up on 150 years now. Secondary school education was only implemented in Ireland in the 50s and 60s. And what do human beings fear more than change? We're afraid that if we change it too much, we won't be able to go back. But I've also met teachers and education boards who've met with their students, and they realize that what they're teaching may not be what's best for the students. They're torn between what the syllabus says and what they think, as practicing educators in the field, think is best. And while reflecting on every subject we do and, having 1,000 different programs in that 1 year of TY is all well and good, it's been proven that things for students need to be done consistently for them to remember them. And I'd also like to leave school with the ability to, accept rejection and deal with bullying and cope with stress. Massive things we need in this world. Yet, the fact that Ireland has one of the most highest teenage suicide rates, and the fact that I'm kind of doubting my future at this point, it's kind of throwing things up in the air. So what do we do now? Well, look, I'm not the first one to stand up on stage tonight, and preach this to the void. And I'm not going to be the last. But the way things work like this in a kind of society we need a global movement. We need to bring everyone into this. And what's great about tonight, I hear you whisper in your heads, totally, hope you are, is that I'm in a room with 300 odd people and more people looking at this online, all with the ability to spread the word and create real change. I know that sounds difficult. Trust me, it is. But I want you to look back over on your school years, all the people who've left school, and remember what school was like. Think about the students that are currently in this situation, who may be made obsolete in the next 10 years. Think about the students who are so stressed about life that they start to give up on it. I'm not expecting the doll to meet up tomorrow and create new legislation. That isn't going to happen, trust me. But I'd like for it to someday. And anything good in this world, I've kind of realized, it's always difficult. And essay. Wait, sorry, school essay, forgot. I'm supposed to lead on a quote, I'm guessing, because to make it sound all professional. Small steps lead to big change. Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds professional. Today is the 8th of March. I'm submitting my essay. Please grade it. And let's see if I passed. Thank you.